Good afternoon, good early evening to you all. Thank you very much for joining Railbookers. I'm Anna Davis. I'm your host for our online presentation today, looking at our holidays to across the UK and to the Republic of Ireland. So thank you very much for joining me. It's great to have your company today. Hope you have a cup of coffee, perhaps a cup of tea for our next 30 minutes or so together as we take a tour of the British Isles and Ireland. There is a questions box. Hopefully you can see that on the side of your screen there. So please feel free to type in any questions you have as we go through the presentation. There will be some time for questions and answers at the end of our time together. So do please pop in the inquiries or questions that you'd like me to clarify in there. I'll be happy to do so. And without further ado, we shall make a start. So I know that a number of you join our presentations relatively regularly, but I do know we've got some new customers with us today. So I hope that those of you who are perhaps more familiar with our holidays don't mind me just taking a few minutes right at the start to touch on a few general points. Firstly, we've got a great offer running at the moment, and that is offering you the opportunity to earn free upgrades on us, upgrade your trip on Railbookers. We're giving up to £500 worth of credit, depending on the number of nights of the holiday, that you can put towards upgrading any number of different things on the holiday, whether that's upgrading to first class on the train, perhaps upgrading to a suite, a higher rated star rating hotel, adding private tours, adding in extra nights, lots of ways in which you can upgrade the holidays on us, and more information available on that on our website at railbookers.co.uk. I just wanted to mention a few points on this slide here, and that's firstly, one of the big things that makes Railbookers different is our ability to book up to 2 years in advance. So at the moment, we can book your holiday as far ahead as June 2023. That's a really unique part of what Railbookers does. If you've ever tried to piece together a rail itinerary, perhaps across Europe, you'll know that there are lots of different rail systems, lots of different languages, lots of different release dates, and we take all of that complexity away from you. The other thing I wanted to mention is the flexibility that we have with our holidays. So our holidays are independent, they're not group operated, they don't have a tour leader. They are for independent travelers who want the flexibility to put together their own trip so that it has everything that you want to do and nothing that you don't. So as we go through the presentation today, and in fact if you look at any of the holidays on our website or indeed in our brochures, all of them can be tailor-made, all of them can be adapted and customized so that it is exactly as you want it. There is nothing set in stone about any of the itineraries, so just bear that in mind as we go through the presentation this afternoon. Talking of brochures, we have a range of digital brochures available. You can find them on our website. There will also be an email coming to you tomorrow with a link to view the recording of this again, or perhaps to share with friends and family. There'll also be a link on that to access these digital brochures. If you're looking for some ideas, some inspiration for your next trip, these are a great place to start. And we've got a range from our worldwide brochure on the left all the way through our Scottish itineraries, our UK and Ireland holidays, our trips to Spain, cruise extensions, and tucked behind there on the far right are luxury journeys as well. So a wide range of brochures to give you lots of great ideas for your next holiday. I mentioned that our holidays are independent rather than being escorted or group tours, but that doesn't mean that you're entirely alone when you travel. So you have the benefits of independent travel whilst having the support of our global team whilst you're away. So should you have any issues or need our assistance, you do have an emergency out of hours number on your documentation, and there's always somebody awake across the Railbookers offices to assist. We've been working with the rail partners around the world for a little over 17 years now to piece together these independent rail holidays, and just some of the rail partners we work with are on the screen there. And that's really allowing us to be a one-stop shop for a rail holiday. So of course we take care of the rail tickets, the rail journeys, but also all the other elements. So hotel accommodation, of course, but also excursions, sightseeing, transfers, car hire, really everything that you'd want from the trip all in one place, and all of it available to book with a small deposit up to 2 years in advance, as I say. And then With regards to the rail partners and the last slide before we move into the UK and Irish trips, I just wanted to touch on COVID and what the rail operators have been doing, continue to do to maintain a safe environment on board. Of course, rail has continued as an essential service throughout the pandemic. So as leisure traffic starts to resume and more leisure customers are travelling on the trains again, the railways are very well experienced at handling the protocols required for COVID, and that is a combination of sort of the broad strokes that you see on the screen, whether that's facial coverings in the stations and on the trains, the removal in some cases of food and drink being sold on board, although that is now almost back to normal. Lots of changes to allocation of seating on board to allow for social distancing and spacing throughout the train, as well as increased cleaning regimes both during the journeys in the common areas, but also deep cleans at the end of the service, as well as a move to more and more contactless tickets so that there's less passing of documents, if you like, between customers and staff. Now, these are broad strokes across a number of different rail companies. The last point I wanted to make on this was that we do have a dedicated guest relations team. So once you've booked with us, once you're preparing to travel, our guest relations team can handle and answer any specific questions you've got on the specific journeys, the specific train companies, so that you know the exact processes and protocols required when you're traveling. So without further ado, let's have a look at some of our most popular UK and Ireland holidays. Now, we've talked a lot about Scotland here at Railbookers over the last few months, and wanted to include one of the most popular Scottish trips at the moment. That's our Edinburgh Isle of Skye and the West Highland Line trip. So this is a 10-day holiday with a starting price of £1,799. What this trip combines is really, in a way, similar to lots of the Railbookers holidays. It's fantastic cities and town stays with some fabulous rail journeys and some wide open spaces. In this case, the glorious Isle of Skye. We do also have island stays on the Orkneys, the Outer Hebrides, so lots of opportunity to be in those open spaces whilst also combining it with some city stays and some really great railway journeys all in the one trip. So let's have a look at this itinerary. It starts first of all in Fort William, and I should add here that we can also book your UK rail tickets from your local UK station so that you can start any of our trips from the nearest UK rail station to your home, and we can add that on to any of our itineraries for any of our European trips. So do bear that in mind. So you'll have initially a 2-night stay in Fort William at the start of the trip, and during that time you'll have really one of the rail highlights of any of our holidays in this part of the world, and that's travelling on the West Highland Line between Fort William and Mallaig, and that is on the Jacobite steam train if you're travelling between April and October. We'll have a look at that in a moment, but it is widely regarded as one of the world's most beautiful railway journeys. After 2 nights in Fort William, you'll take a private transfer north to Portree on the Isle of Skye, and you're based there for 3 nights. And during your stay on the island, you'll have a guided full-day tour of all of the best sites and places to visit on Skye. After your stay comes to an end on the island, you'll then have a private transfer across to Inverness. Widely regarded as really the gateway to the Highlands. It's been a really popular place for customers travelling this year, and you're based in Inverness for a 2-night stay. And then lastly, it's the railway line down to Edinburgh on the main line railway to Edinburgh for a 2-night stay to round off the trip before returning to your local station. So let's have a look at some of the highlights here. The Jacobite steam train, of course, as I say, if you're travelling between April and October when the Jacobite runs, you will travel on the West Highland Line on this steam train. If you're travelling outside of those dates, you take the same track, the same route, but it won't be on the steam train. Same sights and same magnificent scenery though as you travel. So as I say, this scenic journey, or this line, widely regarded as one of the world's most beautiful, and it's a journey that has a huge number of extremes. So you'll pass the highest mountain, you'll pass the deepest freshwater loch, You'll travel through the most westerly railway station, lots of extremes of scenery as you travel. And here you have the Glenfinnan Viaduct, now very, very famous, of course, from the Harry Potter film series, on when they use the Jacobite as the Hogwarts Express. But you'll travel from Fort William up to Mallaig. It's an 84-mile round trip. You have a couple of hours in Mallaig, beautifully positioned on the coast, a lovely coastal village community there for a couple of hours before then returning southbound to Fort William for your second night stay there. You'll then take the private, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, on board on the Jacobite, you've got standard class and first class accommodation. First class has been incredibly popular this year. Travellers looking to upgrade, to make the journey a little extra special, perhaps make up for a missed special birthday from last year. So this is first class on board. You do also have the option to add afternoon teas to be served during the journey as well, to make the journey back to Fort William a little extra special too. So if you'd like any more information on that, please do give one of our rail experts a call and we can guide you in the right direction on that. So once you've left Fort William and you've taken the private transfer to Skye, you'll find yourselves amongst some of this magnificent scenery. This is the Cirang on the Isle of Skye. You're based in Portree, which is listed in the top 20 most beautiful villages in the UK. Absolutely a beautiful setting, and you have, as I say, a full day guided tour of the island, taking in some of the real highlights: the fairy pools, East Point, Kilt Rock, the wider area around Portree as well. So lots to see and do, just some of the scenery that you'll enjoy on that day trip. Also wanted to share with you an example of the accommodation that you'll stay in, and this is the Skibost Hotel on Skye. It's just a few kilometres outside of Portree, in an absolutely beautiful setting itself. It's in a 23 acres of woodland on the edge of a loch, beautifully perched, and was a hunting lodge from 1871. But the name Skibost apparently means the sheltered house as well. So it's thought that it's been a home of some sort as far back as the Viking times. But very traditional, very comfortable, family-run hotel, and a very, very comfortable place to spend a few nights on the island. And then, as I mentioned, you'll then move over to Inverness, and you're based in Inverness for a 2-night stay. Lots to see and do in Inverness, and lots to keep you busy there. If you're travelling again between April and October, there is a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing bus that runs around Inverness, and we include tickets for that to help you get your bearings, to help you explore the area a little more. Here you have Inverness Castle, which is perched picturesquely above the river. You've also got the art museum in Inverness as well. So lots to see and do and keep you occupied for a couple of nights there. And our hotel of choice in Inverness is this. It's the King's Mills 4-star property. Again, very comfortable, wide range of different hotel rooms types. It's also got a great restaurant if you wanted to eat in as well. And our holidays are based on a bed and breakfast basis, but we can add in dinner as well if you'd like that booked in advance. So combining Scotland with a slightly more varied, wider travelling itinerary, this is our Scenic Routes of Britain. It's a 9-day holiday, starting price of £1,049, and it starts in London and takes in stays in Bristol, Leeds, Glasgow, and up to Fort William before returning overnight by train back to London. So let me talk you through this itinerary. Again, it combines some fantastic city stays, but as the name suggests, also some fabulous scenic routes here as well. You'll travel along the Devon coast, for example. So a slightly unusual start to the trip, but one that's worth it for the scenery. You'll start from London and you'll travel down along the Devon coast between Dawlish Warren and Teignmouth to Totnes, before changing lines to travel up to Bristol. So a really scenic way to start the trip. You'll pass the Kennet and Avon Canal, for example, the South Devon Hills, to Totnes to then reach Bristol in time for dinner. You have a 2-night stay in Bristol before travelling along the scenic Heart of Wales line up to Shrewsbury to then connect onto the main line to Manchester and up to Leeds. A 2-night stay in Leeds before then travelling on the Settle and Carlisle line up to Carlisle and on to Glasgow. A 1-night stay in Glasgow before travelling north to Fort William to take that Jacobite journey, as we've already talked about. And then the trip ends with an overnight journey back down to London on the Caledonian Sleeper. Now, as I say, all of our itineraries can be modified. So if you'd like extra nights in any of these destinations, if you wanted to limit it perhaps just to England, perhaps not include Scotland, add in additional destinations in Scotland and stay for longer. All of those things are absolutely possible depending on what you want to do and where you want to visit. So we'll have a look at some of the destinations included in this one. So Bristol here, of course, with its iconic Clifton Suspension Bridge, a real symbol of Bristol, but there's also a lot more to discover as well. You've got Bristol Museum and Art Gallery. You could climb to the top of Cabot Tower for some fantastic views over the surrounding areas. And you've also got some lovely locations like St Nicholas's Market in the centre of the city, a great spot to grab some lunch and to watch the world go by. So plenty to keep you busy for that 2-night stay in Bristol. Before you then embark on the Heart of Wales line. Now this is a spectacularly rural railway line that crosses some of the country's finest landscapes, including the Gwent Levels, the Black Mountain on the edge of the Brecon Beacons, as you see here, all the way through the Shropshire Hills. So it runs from Swansea north through Ammanford and up towards Shrewsbury, as I say, sorry, north. You can do it in both directions, but on this itinerary we go northbound. You'll then connect in Shrewsbury to travel on to Manchester and Manchester on to Leeds. Once you're in Leeds for a 2-night stay, again, lots to keep you busy here. It's the 3rd largest city in the UK. Some really beautiful monuments to explore. Kirkstall Abbey, for example, with ruins of an 800-year-old monastery, Leeds Cathedral, Leeds Art Gallery and City Museum. You've also got great shopping opportunities, not least in the Victoria Quarter, as pictured here, with some great restaurants and places to spend a few hours as well. So lots to do in Leeds as well. The next rail highlight, though, is travelling on the Carlisle and Settle line, which will take you north from Leeds up to Carlisle and then on to Glasgow. So you'll pass again through some spectacular scenery, the Yorkshire Dales National Park. Not least, you'll travel over the famous Ribblehead Viaduct, and through the Eden Valley. You'll arrive in Glasgow in the afternoon, so some plenty of time to wander the city, to visit perhaps the famous Kelvin Grove Art Gallery, the Botanical Gardens, or the Riverside Museum before your evening stay in Glasgow. Then, as I mentioned, you'll travel north to Fort William for a 2-night stay there, before then catching the Caledonian Sleeper. Now, very often with the majority of our holidays, including the Caledonian Sleeper, you're travelling northbound from London to Scotland. There are 2 lines on the Caledonian Sleeper. The Highland line taking in Fort William and Inverness, and the Lowland line that travels to Glasgow and Edinburgh. So on this, you're travelling southbound from Fort William to London on the Highland line. The Caledonian Sleeper, effectively a new train, really. It was relaunched in 2019. And for obvious reasons not travelled on a huge amount last year, so effectively really still brand new, and a great way to travel north and south of the border. On board you have a range of sleeping accommodation to choose from. You've got here the classic room, which has the lower berth and upper berth, a cabin for 1 or 2 people. You then have the club room, which is what our holidays are based around. The club room has the same sleeping accommodation here as you have an upper and a lower berth, but the cabin is has ensuite facilities and does include a complimentary breakfast that can either be served in your cabin or in the Caledonian Lounge. Lastly but not leastly, though, you do have the Caledonian Double. So if you again were perhaps looking to celebrate amidst anniversary, a birthday, looking to make the trip extra special and memorable, then opting for the Caledonian Double, a full-size double bed on board the Caledonian Sleeper, is certainly a great way to do that. There are 2 double cabins on each service, so they do sell out relatively quickly, but again, something that has been very popular for customers looking to make the trip a little bit extra special. You do here also have fully ensuite facilities, of course. You have breakfast included, and the Caledonian lounge car has some great food available as well. Again, cooked fresh to order by the chefs on board, a fully stocked bar, good Scottish regional produce, and a really great way to spend the evening travelling north or south, as in this example. Now, to vary it slightly, wanted to share a shorter itinerary to give you an example of one of our sort of city break stays, a shorter break. This is our London and Bath itinerary, 4 nights, a 5-day holiday, starting price at £649. Really explanatory itinerary that you can see on the map there. You have a 2-night stay, first of all, in London, followed by a 2-night stay in Bath. Now, if you wanted to make either of those stays longer or shorter, absolutely possible. If you wanted perhaps just to stay in Bath, combine Bath with Oxford and Cambridge, perhaps combine Bath and Bristol. Lots, again, of flexibility available there. So really just to give you an idea. When you're in London, we do include a 2-day London pass. That not only gives you your travel card to travel on the underground, but it also gets you into over 80 top attractions. Suspect you'll be slightly hard pushed to visit all of those within the 2-night stay, but it does give you a huge amount of choice about what interests you the most and where you'd like to visit. So, top attractions including the Tower of London, Westminster Abbey, the Globe Theatre, but also experiences like the Thames River boat cruise included with that. So that's a really great bonus to have whilst you're in the capital. Then you'll leave from London Paddington to travel west to Bath, and you're in Bath for a 2-night stay before then travelling homeward bound to your local UK station. So just wanted to mention a few points about Bath. Obviously a very well-known city and lots to see and do. Absolutely beautiful Georgian architecture, fantastic shopping, great culture and restaurant and cafe culture as well. But just a few shots to share here. This is Pultney Bridge. It's one of the most photographed examples of Georgian architecture in the city. And interestingly, I thought it was interesting, it's one of only 4 bridges in the world that has shops across its full span on both sides, designed in 1769. And it leads directly, if you were to sort of go left out of this shot, leads directly in to the city centre, Bath Abbey, just a few minutes walk away from here. You've also got, as you can see on the right hand side of the picture, regular boat trips that leave from this spot here, travelling upriver to Bathampton. So definitely recommend doing that. A lovely way to spend an hour or so with a river view. Of course, Bath famous for its Roman baths. No visit to Bath probably complete without visiting this in some way, shape or form. You've got a number of options available with us, whether that's visiting to have a look round, as well as some of the spa days and treatments available as well. But you've also got Bath Abbey there in the background, which is definitely worth visiting. It's one of the best preserved Roman remains in the whole world. It's still very much fully functioning. The spring water reaching 46 degrees still fills the bathing site every single day. And next door, joined to this, is the famous Pump Rooms restaurant. I can personally recommend an afternoon tea there. Also great for morning coffee, with a famous Bath bun, which are also delicious. If you're not familiar with the local delicacy, a Bath bun is similar really to a sort of a sweet brioche roll, often filled with fruit or having fruit or sugar on the top, sprinkled on the top of it, but absolutely delicious, and you have to try at least one when you go to visit. Now we've looked at London and Edinburgh. Wanted also to mention York and add that into the package here that you see: London, Edinburgh, York, and the Caledonian Sleeper. So this is a 7-day holiday with a starting price of £1,099. Let me talk you through the route that you'll take on this one. So you'll head north first of all, leaving on the Caledonian Sleeper to travel from London to Edinburgh. Now, worth mentioning that there are not really many joining points after London on the Caledonian Sleeper. So, and also from an experience point of view, it's nice to do the whole route. If though you wanted to reach Edinburgh on a day service and take the Caledonian Sleeper out of this holiday, you absolutely can do that too. It's not a compulsory element of the trip by any means. But assuming you do want to travel on the Sleeper, you'll travel up to Edinburgh for a 2-night stay. You have a city tour included whilst you're there, before then travelling back on the main line day service to York, first of all, for a 2-night stay in the beautiful city, place of my birth in York. You have a 2-night stay there with breakfast and a hop on hop off sightseeing tour, before then travelling back down to London for the remaining night of the trip. So Edinburgh, as I mentioned, you have a city pass included for Edinburgh, which includes really all of the main sites that you'd expect: Princes Street, Grassmarket, Holyrood Palace, the Edinburgh Castle, of course, with the St Margaret's Chapel, and we can organise for a skip the line entrance for that as well, so you can walk straight to the front of the queue. The other top recommendation to visit would be Dean's Village. This is really not very far from very central Edinburgh, probably just 5 minutes or so behind Princes Street, but a real gem, and many of these buildings UNESCO World Heritage protected. It's the old sort of industrial heart of Edinburgh. Many of the mills and the factories were here, and a lot of the architecture has been maintained. Definitely worth wandering around and seeing some of that away from maybe more of the hustle and bustle of the city centre. So do make sure to visit Dean's Village whilst you're there. Also just wanted to mention a few ways that you could upgrade your time in Edinburgh on any of these holidays. For example, why not stay at the Waldorf Astoria in central Edinburgh, which has those magnificent views up to the castle that you can see there. And other ways to upgrade include private tours, private experiences, not least something like the Scotch whisky experience, which has been teaching travellers, visitors, lots of things about Scotch whisky for over 30 years. It's at the top of Edinburgh's Royal Mile, and lots of different packages available if you just wanted to have an experience just with your travelling companion, with a small group, for example. There are some tasting sessions with whisky. There are some food and whisky tasting experiences, as you see here. Whether you're a connoisseur or a first-time whisky drinker, there's lots of different options that can be arranged, and definitely something that's been really enjoyed by customers that have done this so far this year. Moving south then to York after your 2 nights in Edinburgh, the magnificent York Minster here. It's the second largest Gothic cathedral of Northern Europe, and it was completed in 1472. Of course, it's had quite the history with lots of damage, repairs, not least damage during the Norman invasion in 1069, with William the Conqueror's harrying of the north, much more recently the big fire in 1984, but all fully repaired and restored now, and definitely should be on anybody's list visiting York. It's also got some beautiful gardens behind as well, a lovely spot to perhaps just enjoy a few minutes on the green as well. Now, with the Minster still in view, you've also, of course, got the magnificent walls, or the bar walls, as they are called locally, which are just over 2 miles long in length, making them the longest town walls in England. Built mainly in the 13th century, and gives you a really great view of the sort of circular view, really, of York as you travel round past the various gates and entrances into the city. You do have a couple of other highlights included in the York Pass, entrance to the Jorvik Viking Centre, of course, one of the must-dos whilst you're in the city. The famous Railway Museum, very easily reached through York Railway Station, and a particular favourite of mine, the history of chocolate. So York, with its very long tradition of chocolate making from the Rowntree family, the Rowntree factory, was in York from 1890 and owned by Nestle since 1988. And on certain times of the day, when the wind is blowing in the right direction, there is a really strong smell of chocolate coming from the Nestle factory chimneys. So that's also really worth doing as well. Now, leaving England behind and moving over to the Republic of Ireland, the last holiday I wanted to share with you today is our Dublin, Cork, Killarney and Galway combination. This is a 10-day, 9-night trip starting from £1,299. And this is a round trip from Dublin, so it's based with an initial 2-night stay in Dublin before moving round with a 2-night stay in Cork, 2 nights in Killarney, 2 nights in Galway before one further night in Dublin to round off the trip. Now, a couple of things to mention here in terms of reaching Dublin can be done in a number of ways with a flight from a regional airport, or equally train to from your local UK station to Fishguard, and then the ferry across to Dublin as well. So both of those options available. So as I say, you'll start with a 2-night stay in Dublin, really a city that needs very little introduction. But as with most of the towns and cities we've talked about today, you do get a city pass to help explore, which really gives you access to pretty much everything you'd want to visit, to be honest. You've got St Patrick's Cathedral, the National Museum of Ireland, Old Jameson's Distillery, of course, no visit to Dublin complete without going there, Croke Park, Dublin Zoo, and of course the Guinness Storehouse, which is a 7-story experience, all about the black stuff, and worth doing alone for the view from the 7th floor, because you work your way up through the storehouse on the visit through the exhibition centre, and the free samples of Guinness are served on the top floor from the bar with fabulous views over the city. So well worth doing that. After your first 2 nights in Dublin, you'll then travel south to Cork. Also a beautiful city, some fantastic restaurants, fantastic seafood in Cork particularly, and lots to visit as well, including the historic city prison and the Victorian and Gothic architecture of the cathedral as well. Next is on to Killarney, and from Killarney, the main highlight is to visit the Ring of Kerry and the Killarney Lakes and National Park. But you do also have some gems just right outside Killarney, including this Ross Castle. It's just a few kilometres outside of Killarney itself, and reminds me very much of the Caledonian Castle that we've featured a lot in our Scottish itineraries. A beautiful setting and well worth a little potter out from Killarney to visit when you're there. But the full day trip that's included is taking you to the Ring of Kerry and the Killarney Lakes and National Park. So it's a full day tour, really showcasing some of the country's most spectacular scenery, from these lush fields and hillsides here right through to Kenmare Bay and Dingle Bay, as well as the MacGillycuddy Reeks. Lots to see and take in on this fully guided tour of the Lakes and National Park. A really, really stunning area to spend the day in. And then you'll make your way to Galway, and you'll be in Galway for a 2-night stay, and whilst you're there you have a full day trip out to the Cliffs of Moher, which are here. They are UNESCO listed as well, stretching over 8 kilometres and reaching 214 metres above sea level at the highest point. Now, on a clear day, which is probably not as the photograph suggests, but if the skies were clearer, you would be able to see over to the Aran Islands and also Galway Bay visible. So an absolutely spectacular backdrop for your last few days on this round trip of Ireland, before then moving to Dublin for the last night before returning back to your home station. So, hope you've enjoyed that whistle-stop tour of the UK and Ireland, hopefully featuring some slightly different itineraries, destinations to those we've covered in previous presentations, giving you a little bit more idea of some of the English and Irish destinations that you can include in your next trip, whether that's a short break getaway or a longer stay. More information, of course, as always, available on railbookers.co.uk. You'll find the holiday pages for all of the holidays that I've mentioned today, with the full itinerary, the day-by-day itinerary, the maps, the pricing right through to 2023. But also remember, we are very much open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5:30 on the number that you see there, 0203 780 2222. So if there's anything you'd like to discuss further, if you have any further questions after this session is finished, please do give us a call and we'd be very, very happy to help and assist. At this point, I will hand it over to yourselves for any questions that you may have for me. I'm just going to have a quick look through the questions that have come in. We do have a couple, so thank you for popping those in. Not too late to ask anything if you want to. So I can see a question about hotels, so I'll take that one first. It's a good question, and the vast majority of our holidays include a choice really of hotel. So 3, 4 or 5 star rated properties in most of the cities and destinations. That gives you the option in terms of budget, style, decor, location, and in part, and I should have mentioned this earlier, that's really one of the reasons why our website isn't bookable. It's a great source of information, but in terms of booking your holiday and inquiring about your holiday, that's all done over the phone, so that we can really book the right hotel accommodation and the right experiences for you that is really what you want. So we do have a range of hotels available. We can also book specific hotels if you have one in mind. Lots of choice and flexibility, and that can be varied also across the holiday. So if you wanted to stay in a 3-star property for most, but perhaps for your birthday in one of those cities you'd like a 5-star property, we can book that as well. Lots of choice, lots of flexibility. I can also see a question about deposits. So another good question. Thank you very much. Our typical deposit is £250 per person, which is payable at the time of booking. And then we'll take the remaining balance at 90 days before travel. And then your travel documents are sent between 10 and 14 days prior to travel with all of the elements that you need, with obviously your rail tickets, your hotel vouchers, all of the details of your excursions and sightseeing, and that out of hours number as well, should you need any assistance whilst you're traveling. So if there are no further questions, I think I've summarized most of those questions into those couple of answers. So thanks very much for that. Always great to have you involved with some live questions. If that's all from your side, then just left for me to say thank you very much for joining me here this afternoon. Hope you find our whistle stop tour of the British Isles and Ireland useful, interesting, giving you a bit of inspiration. Hope it has stopped raining where you are. It has almost stopped raining here in Kent. I wish you a really pleasant rest of your day and hope to see you on another presentation with us very soon. Thanks everybody. Take care. Bye bye.